2020 to order. And let's go through roll call. Clark, could you call it, please?
Sure. Ellen DeVero.
Here.
Amanda Matusik. She's not here. Jeannie Orr.
I'm here.
Tina Lee.
Here.
Chelsea Ratner. I don't believe she's here. Jill Connell.
Here.
Catherine Harder.
Here.
And Ishak. I know he's here. Ishak.
I'm here.
Yes. Okay. Okay. And Dart.
Here.
Okay.
Okay. So we have the minutes of May 6th. I don't know if people had a chance to review them, and if so, does anybody have any comments?
They looked fine to me.
I had a question, please.
Sure.
I was not present at the May 6th meeting, but I was present at the June meeting. And at the June meeting, towards the end, we asked about, leaving some part of the forest, giving back to the town and have it set aside like forever wild or some other notification thereof. It's there in the minutes on line 83 and line 84 on page 3. Just a quick question, can I get a status update on that?
Yeah, we can talk about it.
Yeah, I did. So because in May, we had the CAC, obviously, as you can see through the minutes, recommended that the town own that buffer. And so the planning board was amenable to that. And we proceeded moving forward with the town likely taking ownership of that buffer if it would be approved. But then after the June meeting, when you guys kind of unanimously agreed to recommend that it be deed restricted to forever wild, that went to the planning board, and they were also very amenable to that. And they put it as one of their recommendations to the town board that it be incorporated in the special use permit. So that was taken to heart, and they do want to require a forever wild deed restriction on that area.
Awesome. Thanks for the clarification.
Sure. Hearing that there's no comments or corrections to the May 6th meeting minutes, do we have a motion to accept them?
I make a motion to accept the minutes of the May 6th meeting.
I'll second it.
Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Okay.
I'm going to go.
Floor.
I'm going to go grab my wife, please. Just a minute or less.
Okay.
Jen. Jen.
Yeah, I'm just gonna. I double checked. I had no other emailed people who were interested in privilege of the floor, so I think we just have the one person that. So Ashok's wife wanted to speak to us under privilege of the floor.
That's great.
I'm really sorry about this. Apparently, my daughter had a bit of a tantrum, and my wife had to take her out for a walk. I know I requested this, but I'm really sorry about this. There is no. My wife is not here. Sorry, I'm really sorry.
Okay. Laura, you're on mute. Are you needing to be on mute or?
No, sorry.
Oh no, I didn't know if you were saying anything. Okay. Why don't we move on to the EAF referrals? And we have before us one we've seen before. It's 2019-10, 1448 Balltown Road. Ace Hardware site plan review. We saw this a couple months ago, I would say, or in the fall. So I didn't know if you had a presentation you wanted to make or give us a brief overview of the project and where it stands.
Sure. You're asking me, right? Is that correct? Yeah. So
Yeah.
we were in front of the board back in the winter time, and then everything was held off because of COVID. But since then, we did make a presentation to the to the planning board, and the planning board favorably looked at the plan. This is a redevelopment of a site that was used as offices, and it's being redeveloped for a neighborhood hardware store. They did have a zoning issue, and we did go in front of the zoning board of appeals to allow us to construct a greenhouse in front of the building. And what happens is the issue was that the zoning on the in the street, as you can see on the site plan that Laura just brought up, the setback, the way it's established to the building, is that it takes the average over the different parcels that are adjacent to the parcel. So we had to request a setback variance, an area variance for a setback, because with the addition of the greenhouse, we were in violation of the setback. So we did receive that variance, and then we went to the planning board and brought the planning board up to speed with regards to achieving the or obtaining that variance, that area variance. And we also submitted the drawings to show some of the other site improvements that the project developer will be making, and that is the roadway which accesses the site will be from Knott Street, and the road will be widened to I believe it's 22 feet to allow for two-way traffic to the site from Knott Street, and that's something that was discussed and requested very early on in the project application. So that's something that was presented. The other thing that we presented was the lighting plan for the site. There are a couple of lights along that entrance road, but it's really dark. If anybody has been back there during the evening, the lighting is really poor, and we're replacing those existing lights and upgrading them to more modern light poles that will provide better lighting along that drive and also along the parking lot, the existing parking lot. As you may know, the parking lot is at the rear of the site. The front of the site is along Balltown Road, but it's a redevelopment of an existing building, which was used as an office building, I believe. I think there was an investment firm that operated out of there. But those are really the main points of what has occurred since the last time you saw this application. Is the greenhouse variance that was obtained, and then the improvements to the access drive, and also in general to the lighting for the entire site, but especially for the driveway, because the driveway is really dark.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
And so some of the questions that the CAC had in December or November when they looked at it in 2019
Right.
was partially they wanted to see the grading to see if the silver maples in the front would remain. And your grading
Right.
plan, even with, you know, the addition of the sidewalk, you do feel
Yes.
that the trees will be able to stay, right?
That's correct. There is a sidewalk that is being added from the Boltown, from the existing Boltown sidewalk, and that sidewalk provides you access to the site through the greenhouse to the hardware store, to the interior of the hardware store. But there is a good elevation difference between the sidewalk at Boltown and the finished floor of the existing building. So there will be some steps that will be constructed as part of that sidewalk. The handicap access will be from the rear. There are ramps at the rear of the site to provide handicap access, but there's going to be a couple landings and a couple steps that will be necessary to get access. But the trees are, as you can see, the trees are remaining. They won't be affected by the construction of the sidewalk.
Mr. Costa, a quick
Yes.
clarification question, please. When you say trees, I'm looking at the page 13 of the PDF, and we are talking about the large silver maples, the 42-inch trees that are next to the sidewalk on Balltown Road, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you. And I had one more question, please. I was actually at the site today, and I walked in the parking lot. It's a little overgrown, you know, with like weeds and stuff coming off the ground. Like, so do you have any plans on spiffing that up?
Well, the applicant was, you know, their objective was to be in there this spring, and obviously everything was, you know, put on a holding pattern. We're hoping that you know, we get through the CAC meeting tonight, and then we'll have another meeting in July. We'll hopefully be in front of the planning board to get final site plan approval, and then they'll be starting construction soon thereafter. But I will mention it to the applicant that maybe it's time for them to send one of their ground crew to maybe spiff that up, as you said, and I'll do that tomorrow morning.
I don't want to make an imposition like if nobody is going to be occupying the parking lot, and if, you know, there's no need to needlessly spend money to make it pretty. It's just something that caught my eye. That's all.
No, understood. And I last time I drove in there was the night that we had the planning board meeting, but it was dark. That's why I mentioned that back there. It's really dark. So I think the lighting improvement will help. You know, with the lighting, but I will mention it though. I will mention it because I think that they don't want to make the site appear to be abandoned. So if things are a little bit overgrown, I'll have them take a look at it, and if necessary, they'll do something. But we're hoping that soon thereafter, soon they'll be able to do some of the site work and clean the entire site and get it up and running.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question about the lighting?
Sure.
There's, from what I see on the plan, it looks like only 2 lights along that drive.
No, I believe there's actually 3. I think there's 2 existing, and I believe that we were replacing them with 3. You know, there'll be 3 new ones, and I think the existing ones are really outdated and don't function the way the 3 new light poles will function, and the 3 new light poles will have a much better spread of lighting over the entire driveway. And they're going to be completely replaced. We're not reutilizing either the poles or the heads of the light poles. They're going to be completely replaced.
And what will they be on all night?
No, they'll be on a timer, and I don't believe they need to be on all night. I think that the hours of the hardware store will determine how late they'll be on.
Okay. And I didn't see any detail on the lighting plan. Any specifics?
I think it's called out. I think we show a model and a for both the pole and the fixture.
Okay. Oh, I see it. Yes. Okay. And I'm assuming it's lighting that will just be directed downward and
yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It's what we call it's a terrible reference, but it's what we call a shoebox, and it's going to be fixed. It's not going to be one of the light poles that they'll be able to, where you see them a lot of times is at car dealerships where they can angle the light pole. This will be fixed at 90 degrees.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about the lighting and stuff. Laura, does this fall under the overlay district requirements?
Yes, it is within the town center overlay district. Yep.
So do we have specific lights to sort of achieve consistency of, design or standard?
So we talked about that, and I'm pretty sure that the comprehensive plan also recommended doing that. But at this time, we don't have a specific light pole that we require in the town center overlay district.
Okay.
We actually even talked about it with the Knott Street project, because the Knott Street project is in our town center overlay district. But, if you look at the lighting for ShopRite versus like the lighting for, like the First National Scotia Bank and stuff like that, it's not consistent.
Yeah, no, but that was pre-existing. I'm thinking if you look at CVS and ShopRite is
similar. I can look really quickly. Let me look. Sorry.
I'm not saying like specifically the ones at CVS, they're like 360 lights, and that's probably not appropriate here because you want to go straight down. But if we could get, some consistency with the style, some newer style, I know we haven't dictated one, but construction standard or something.
That actually, Laura, that has come up on a couple other projects. I can think of one off the top of my head. It's not a bad thing for us to start looking into a little bit.
Yeah, so it says architectural lighting should enhance the town center overlay district without introducing excessive glare on, off, or above the site. Architectural lighting shall be similar in style and shall meet the specification requirements. So there are some details in here, but I don't know that you can download them online. And then pole mounted lighting shall not exceed 22 feet. And it actually says in here that lighting sources shall be metal halide, which I don't think we want at all. Like this is calling out LED.
Yeah, we should change the light bulbs.
So, this is calling out LED, which we often specifically request or want to know and make sure that it is LED. So,
yeah, those are LEDs, the ones we specified.
I had a second question. There's a comment about the signage, and there were questions about it.
That's correct. The signage, there's a package that's being prepared, it will be submitted, and that's one of the items that is being prepared to go back to the planning board with.
Did you speak to the questions about the signage specifically, or Laura, can you add any details? Were there discussions about it?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it a bit. I'm gonna just share my screen with you guys again for a second. This is you know what, I may actually, well, here. This is the elevation drawing that we have, and I can just show quickly, like, initially, I think the last time we saw it, the elevation really hasn't changed since the last time we saw it, but this is the greenhouse that would be in addition to the building that's extending out towards Balltown Road. And that's hopefully going to create kind of a town center overlay, like entrance, come off the street, come off the sidewalk, walk here, we're a neighborhood shop. But these little squares here are the vendor signs. So that's a little bit more signage than we typically see. But I think I may actually have a color rendering of it now that I'm thinking of it, and I didn't pull it up.
I think that may be the last one we submitted, Laura.
Right? Yeah. Because like there's a still, like the chainsaw still.
Right.
There's like
Carhartt.
Did that come from you, Nick, or did that come from someone else?
I think I might have sent it to you. It came to me from someone else, but I think I forwarded it over to you.
Oh yeah, no, here it is. Okay, good. I'm gonna rotate this. Okay. So here's a color rendering with the signs. So there isn't really too much on the sides, but this front is a little bit different than we typically see in the town center overlay district. And like, I think that my comment, if I said it, I'm not sure if I actually did, was that this is calling out that all the signs are 2x7. And maybe this is just because the architect just, plopped the things down. But obviously this one looks way out of proportion.
Right. Right. Yeah, you're right, Laura. And they're working on having something that's more to the proper presentation of the size than what this showed. This was all, the intent of this was just to present the four sponsors or four products that are going to be carried within the store. So I think they're working on having a better sign package.
Yeah, because we also talked about probably a monument sign.
Yes, that's correct.
Mm-hmm. Now, are they going to conform with the signage requirements of the overlay district? Or is that what the concern is?
This in itself doesn't conform with the sign requirements. You're only allowed one facade sign in the town center overlay district per face. But the planning board does have the ability to waive, and they have looked at, kind of unique circumstances for some of the stores. Like I think just Karma Bistro was allowed to have multiple facade signs, although she didn't end up installing one, but she was allowed to. And the CBD got a little bit of relief for having some extra signs because they're like on a corner, and it was kind of difficult to, like, one sign is like facing ShopRite, another sign is facing, so they think he was allowed to have 3. Like Clark worked really hard on that one. But so the planning board has considered allowing additional signs, when and where it was appropriate, but they haven't seen this full package yet.
That's right.
Okay. I assume they're going to be backlit.
Yes, I think so. I'm not 100% sure of that, but I think they will be, because there's periods of the year when the store is open and it's night. It gets dark early.
So these are permanent signs that will be up there, the sponsors, or they're not going to be interchanged with other signs?
No, those would be, I believe, Laura, correct me if I'm wrong, but once the sign is shown as being still, it has to stay as still, or they would have to come back and have a modification to their sign permit, correct?
So they do have to come back if they pop out if they change the size of it, but the town doesn't regulate necessarily the letters inside the sign. Like we can
Oh, okay.
regulate colors and we
Right.
can regulate, consistency with the neighborhood, but it's almost like a First Amendment thing.
Okay.
You can't put up anything, but like if still becomes, so like for instance, Automated Dynamics is on Hillside and they got bought and now they're called Trilogy or Trillo Byte or something like that. And they just replaced the sign in place. It's not a new company. It's just the name of the company changed. You can do those things without going back to the planning board.
Okay.
So like if Still got bought and became
Right.
like whatever,
Yeah.
or they got really mad at Still and decided to have Husqvarna up there or something. But you would have that space for
Available.
those.
Right. Right.
And like, I mean, just thinking like the town center overlay district used to require that everything be like gold leaf and, wood. And that requirement was removed in like 2010 or somewhere in there.
Yeah, it was.
It may be worth it, to have these signs look more consistent with each other so that if it wasn't Still and it was Husqvarna or something, they all have like a similar box around them or something.
Right. Right.
So I have a question, and I can't remember. We probably discussed this previously about, so when people are approaching the store, they'll be entering off of Knott Street, I see. And so, but is there a way to get in there from Balltown or not? Because those are driveways that are owned by the neighboring businesses.
That's correct. They don't have the driveway that's just below the building. That doesn't. Although it goes to the back area, it does. There is a connection there. They don't really have an access agreement to use that driveway.
Okay, so in reality, like when people start coming, like some people may sneak in there that way. And I was also wondering about people, if they were coming on their bicycles from the other direction or walking, I guess if it's walking, that's probably not that big of a deal, right? If they approach
That's
that
correct.
way. But is that a big deal or no?
No, it's
No,
not.
okay.
But the driving may be in it, and I think the right turn in is not a problem. But if somebody uses to go out onto Balltown Road, that's where it becomes an issue.
Right.
So, I mean, this was actually kind of a big deal at planning board for a while, actually, before Nick was even involved.
That's
The
right.
planning board wanted to see an easement that would allow access off of Balltown Road, partly just, to serve the business, but also because the business thought that they would have to do their deliveries to the side door and park
Right.
their 18-wheelers on there. But they were unable to get that easement.
Right.
So they can put a monument sign just as Wells Fargo did that says entrance on Knott Street, and direct all of their traffic to use the Knott Street entrance. It's not like the Niskayuna police can sit out there and police who's going into what parking lot. They actually don't have any legal right to do that. And it becomes a civil thing. Like if KinderCare or the law building really feel like their road is being overly abused by the hardware store, that would actually be civil between them. But I mean, I think the traffic will probably dictate which entrance is used. And like you say, like if you're on your bicycle, it might make sense to bike up the sidewalk and park your bike, up in the parking lot where you can sort of put it down and have it be more safe. But if you're walking, you're probably just going to go through the front door because anybody walks like me, the shortest distance is the way to go. So I think that the site configuration has to point the cars to Knott Street. There's probably going to be some level of cars that always use that entrance. The planning board can't regulate that and actually becomes a civil issue, but very likely it's a non-issue because it won't be the majority of cars. I don't think it ever was with Wells Fargo. Balltown Road is a pain in the butt to get out onto. And so it, generally speaking, becomes advantageous to you to just take the nice new lit driveway over to Knott Street and use the light.
Do we have any other questions?
I had a question from a town resident who called in, and I apologize if it's already been addressed, but they were asking, is there any plans or is there anything prohibiting Ace Hardware from putting a bunch of like lawn mowers and all kinds of things on display kind of facing Balltown Road, like, you know, like you see at Burnt Hills Hardware or some places like that? So I'm just relaying the message.
Okay. Thanks, Clark.
We've had that question before, like with Lowe's and a couple of the other stores. And if it is something that is concerning, the planning board can limit outdoor areas for display. I think the applicant has stated they do want to have some outdoor areas for display. Nick can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe it's along the side, like the south side of the building, not the front that faces Balltown. I actually don't think there's like concrete pads there that will allow for there to be like a line of lawnmowers there. They'd have to park them in the yard. But I mean, if that was really a concern, the easiest way to address that is to just ask the planning board to designate the outdoor storage spaces size wise, and then that way, if the outdoor storage ever does get excessive, the building inspector can just check what was approved and, you know, have them cut it down to what the planning board allowed.
Yeah, I'm looking at the plan right now. I actually don't see any concrete spot without blocking the path that you could put it. I think, isn't that the concern, is the Balltown view?
Yeah, I mean, if you put them on the south side, if you're going northbound on Balltown Road, you're going to see a small line of them.
Mhm.
But I think that would be where you would want to designate the outdoor storage. It doesn't make sense to have it at the back of the building where people are parking. Right. That's not going to lure customers in. You can't really fit it on the side with First National Bank. That's kind of a steep, grassy bank where you have a lot of trees. And, you know, I think it's kind of it's a hardware store deal to have some outdoor storage.
Yep.
So, but you could certainly limit it, you know, to a square footage. I think we've done that with Lowe's occasionally. And occasionally we've had to go down there and be like, oh, okay, you may have gone a little too far this year.
Well, I'm looking at the south side of the building right now, and it looks like there's only that one brick pad there on the site drawing. Doesn't look like there's a lot of space there dedicated towards that.
No, that's not a huge space, but I think that, like Laura said, if there was any area that would be the logical area for them to use for display. You know, it's I think once you're past the greenhouse, it's not really displaying that's visible as visible. You know, on the south side, it's visible because you have a driveway next door.
Yeah.
And you know, it's kind of level. So I think that would make the most sense.
Yeah, it may have changed because in the original plans, I think there was even maybe a little pullout on the south side of the building where they were going to do their deliveries. It's not showing up anymore. But I mean, that maybe like it's a worthy question to give the planning board. Just make sure what that south side of the building is going to look like and what the outdoor storage is going to look like, just so that you're making sure that it's not going to overly burden the town center overlay district.
Yeah, Laura, the deliveries at that time were planned for that side because they were working on getting a access agreement with the KinderCare. The deliveries will be to the rear. I think the current plan shows a delivery area in the back.
Yeah, it changed, and they were saying that they have to bring slightly smaller trucks, and it's a
Yes.
little bit more labor intensive for them because they can't park so close to the building. But
Right.
because they tried to do the easement and they weren't able to do it, the guy who wants to take over the building is okay spending the extra money, to do
Right.
it from the rear. Yeah.
That's correct.
Laura and Nick, in looking at the plan on the back of the building, it looks like there are steps and a ramp going up.
Yes, that's
Yes.
correct.
Okay,
Yes.
so there's a
The-
similar elevation issue at the back as there is
Yeah.
on the front.
Yeah, the front you're going up. The back you're actually coming down. There's
Oh,
another.
really? Okay.
Yes, yeah. There's a at the rear. There's a reveal. Let's say of the rear at the building that's below Balltown Road.
Okay. Gotcha. Thank you.
Which you said you were going to fix this, but that was part of the reason why they felt like there used to be some stormwater problems with the building because the parking lot actually pitches down and then you go down to get into the building.
Right,
But I
right.
think you or someone had said that they think that they can handle that with some pumps and some upgrades to the area.
Yes, that's correct.
They literally had sandbags around their door because the stormwater would run.
Rush in there.
Yeah.
Did you used to go there to the Wells Fargo, Clark?
I went to the Smith Barney place. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what it was. Smith Barney.
And it was a spa gym before.
That's right.
Yeah.
Do we have any other questions at all? I see a lot of shaking heads. Okay, Laura, do you want to go ahead? Laura, why don't you go through the questions?
Okay, so this is a short form environmental assessment form. It's not a listed and not expected to have a large impact, so the questions are smaller than the ones that we worked through last meeting. So I'll just go through them. Will the proposed action create a material conflict with an adopted land use plan or zoning regulation? My recommendation would be no. Retail is allowed in the town center overlay district. The building's been vacant for some time. The applicant is adding some facade to the front and creating pedestrian access, which will hopefully increase bring some life to the street there. Preserving the trees and adding some improvements to the site. So, it's allowable within the zoning and hopefully an improvement.
I would agree with that.
And then, will the proposed action result in a change in the use or intensity of use of land?
There's a slight increase in traffic, I would think, but I think that's to be expected within the district.
And they did provide a traffic study based on how how their other stores operate. It wasn't a lot of cars. But I can note that. So we'll see just a slight increase, but still no or small impact.
Yeah.
And then will the proposed action impair the character or quality of the existing community?
No.
Okay. I don't think so either. Will the proposed action have an impact on the environmental characteristics that cause the establishment of a critical environmental area? It does not in a critical environmental area, so that answer is automatically no. Will the proposed action result in an adverse change in the existing level of traffic or affect existing infrastructure for mass transit, biking, or walkway? So you can note again, maybe a slight increase in traffic, but I don't think that it's moderate to large impact, and I think that it actually does increase infrastructure for walking. So,
yeah, it does promote the environment that we want, a walking environment. It's an existing structure. We're working well with what we have.
me share my screen with you because I love sharing my screen. Okay. Will the proposed action cause an increase in the use of energy and it fails to incorporate reasonable available energy conservation or renewable energy opportunities? I feel like that's no, especially because they're using LED lighting. But I don't know if Kathy, like if you want to note here that it's important that the lights be on the timer because that's, you know, good for the neighborhood, but also good for the environment.
Agreed.
Yeah, I would agree with Kathy. That was one of my questions as well.
Okay. Will the proposed action impact existing public-private water supplies? There, Nick, you can, I don't think you're changing any water or sewer in the building, right? Yeah.
That's
Right.
correct.
Will the proposed action impair the character or quality of important historic, archaeological, architectural, or aesthetic resources? The building's not old. And yeah, I mean, we will, like Clark is revamping the architectural review board and they will take a look at the facade, but I think it'll be.
Laura, quick point of clarification. In the PDF file that you sent us, there's also a questionnaire starting at page 9.
Yep, that's what the applicant fills out.
Well, they actually marked yes on question 12B. Is the project site or any portion of it located in or adjacent to an area designated as sensitive for archaeological sites on the New York State Historic Preservation Office? They've actually answered yes on the question. So I was curious.
Okay, Laura, may I
Yes, you can.
answer? Yeah. So, Ashok, what we do is we use the EAF mapper, and the EAF mapper is a tool that is online and utilizes a lot of different databases for answering the majority of these questions, and that answer is checked as yes, because there may be some areas adjacent to the site. Obviously, the site is not historic because, you know, the building is a modern building, but there may be some resource nearby that causes that answer to be checked as yes. It's not. I can't, you know, if we use the EAF mapper, I can't change that answer. That's something that comes up, and I think that both Laura and Clark can help with that explanation a little bit.
Yeah.
So
it's computer generated, and it's typically like there's a couple things in Niskayuna that will always come up as yes, because like the entirety of Niskayuna with the level of mapping that they use, they're not going to be mapping necessarily down to property lines. They're, you know, it's just the scale of the maps that New York State draws. But you go here and you put in the address, and you create a report, and it'll just like pull all of these levels for you and computer answer those things. But that's why it's kind of up to the CAC to dive down and be like, okay, EAF mapper says, I'm pretty sure almost the entirety of the town of Niskayuna answers to that question. And then you look at the individual site and say, do I see a large impact to this, you know, in our town?
Just to answer the question a little bit more, there are specific areas in the town that they have found prehistoric artifacts.
That's correct.
So that probably is what triggers it. Generally, they're by the river, Mohawk River area.
Okay, thank you for the clarifications.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Oh, take a look here. Sorry. But that comes up a lot because sometimes we feel like there is an environmental impact and we're like, aha, you answered yes. But that one is answered yes for a lot of the town of Niskayuna. So, will the proposed action result in an average change to natural resources, wetlands, water bodies, groundwater, air quality, flora, and fauna?
No.
Actually, like, I would probably just make a note that they're retaining as many of the existing trees as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And then will the proposed action result in an increase in the potential for erosion, flooding, or drainage problems? So they're really not adding a whole
Hey,
lot,
Albert.
right? They are adding a little impervious on the driveway. But I think, Nick, I asked you this question before. You're putting in a curb and directing the additional drainage into the stormwater detention.
Yeah, that's
basin.
correct. Yeah, there are existing catch basins along that existing drive. We are increasing because we're making a couple feet wider. We are increasing the impervious area, but there is going to be a curb. There's already a curb on one side, and we're adding a curb on the expanded side. So that curbing will help direct the flow to those existing drainage facilities.
Oops. So my suggestion would be no to that.
Okay.
Will the proposed action create a hazard to environmental resources or human health?
No.
No.
Okay, so are there any specific findings that you guys would want to put? I will note, the add timer to the light within that question. But I feel like we should probably write it down in our findings to the planning board.
Yep.
Things that were important to us, and I can make this slightly better, but.
So can I ask just a general question? So the extra curb and it's going like to 22 feet wide for the extra entranceway in, and it'll be the water will be pushed towards the existing sewage. Is there a capacity at which we know that then it will overtake whatever that drain can handle, or do you know what I mean? Like,
Are you concerned about the extra stormwater?
Yeah, like so if the stormwater is there, I don't know if there's a formula based on the concrete the amount that you add per blah 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 to
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that would be my.
yeah, and there's formulas that we use to come up with the additional impervious area will add to that system, and we can certainly take a look at that. It's very minor. The existing pavement is 18 feet, and we're adding 2 feet to it. So percentage-wise, that's a very minor increase. And I don't believe that there's been a history of the existing system backing up or causing flooding in that area, at least
Okay.
for that that portion of it. We know Clark mentioned that the building has had issues, but
Right. So I was wondering if they were going to grade that away from the building and then that plus this, but I'm not a water expert, so.
No, understood.
If you're really concerned about that, you could put a swell. I mean, it is a minor amount, but if you put a swell or did some sort of water garden or retention area just to slow the water down a little bit, I'm not saying there's an issue there. I would tend to agree, but
yeah, understood. And that's the purpose of the curb, is to make sure that the water is directed towards the system that it's intended to manage the runoff, so it doesn't go towards the building or towards other places that it would cause a problem. So it will go to those drainage structures.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So we had a couple comments. Laura, which ones have you put down on the sheet?
Oh, I was just looking at my notes. Do we want to check on consistency of light poles in here too?
Yeah, I kind of think that that's kind of important because we should probably try to establish a continuity within the town somehow. But I know it's kind of vague right now, but we should definitely do that, and the planning board should work with the applicant on the signage to
Signage, yes.
to again fit within the overlay district.
Laura, I would like to recommend something specific for point 2, like spruce up landscaping, retain as many trees as possible. I'd like to suggest that you put in there like the point about retaining the large 42-inch trees on the front. There's actually, if those trees are gone, there's actually, it'll be like a huge open area in that part of Baldwin. They're rather dominant trees.
Yeah.
So I can do this better. I have to go find the language, but essentially what the tree council will recommend, and Nick, you can put this on the drawing, is that on like the soil erosion and sediment control plan or whatever, is that we actually put a fence around the drip line of those trees to ensure that they're protected and not disturbed during construction.
Construction, right?
Yeah.
Yep. I'll put that down.
Construction. I can make this better, but this is like our general idea of what we would write.
Yeah. And Clark brought up the neighbor's concern about the
Let's
machinery. Do we want to put something in there about that? I think the concern is, in my mind, what I take is from the Balltown, on the Balltown side, specifically.
And the rest. Because that's really meant to be the entrance that's enticing people in. You could put plants out there, but you shouldn't have like snow blowers and things out there.
It doesn't look like that's the intent from the plan either. So
Definitely not how you spell merchandise. I will fix it. Okay.
There you go.
Is it a Z? Is that right? It does not look right. Where is my spell check?
do we have any more comments that we'd like to put on this at all? Or?
No.
No, I think that's pretty good.
Okay. Would someone like to make a motion? We're either going to give it a negative, a motion to give it either a negative deck or a positive deck.
I'd like to make the motion, please, to do the nice deck, you know, the
negative deck.
Sorry, the negative deck. Yeah.
I'll second that.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Sorry, I missed.
I'm sorry.
I missed who seconded the motion.
I did, Kathy.
Thank you.
Okay, great. Shall we move on to discussion items?
Look at that.
Thank you.
And, Aisha
Thank you.
would like to talk to us about biodiversity. So the floor is yours.
Oh, thank you, Dot, for giving me this opportunity. So I'm very passionate about biodiversity, and in particular today, I'd like to talk about insect biodiversity. I sent everyone an email that contained a photograph from a recent National Geographic article saying that, giving very graphic evidence of the loss of insect populations. And there's quantitative as well as qualitative studies that show that insect biodiversity is sharply on the decline. And I don't need to talk to this group about the importance of pollinators and the importance of insect biodiversity and all that. In a little while ago, while we were talking about the ACE hardware, like I mentioned, the trees, and partly my passion for preserving the trees comes from trees are actually home to lots and lots of insects. So what I would like to see is like a town-wide initiative or effort to preserve and advance insect biodiversity. There's a lot of misinformation floating out there. Like I got a mailing in my house about 2 months ago from a lawn care company advertising pesticides. And they said like, protect you and your family from the Zika virus. And if you, according to the CDC, there is no known transmission of Zika virus in the United States. And there's a lot of misinformation out there, and the loss of insect biodiversity is rather stark. And the main threats to insect biodiversity are habitat loss and pesticides, and we can do a little bit to combat both of these. So regarding habitat loss, simple things like mowing less on properties that the town controls goes a long way. If the grass is only about like yay thick, it's like a carpet, then that is not at all a suitable habitat for insects. But if it's even a little bit thick, like about a foot off the ground, then it makes a huge difference. I'd like to see my town, Niskayuna, to be a leader in this and a trendsetter in this. Like we get some positive publicity, and other towns around us say like, hey, look at all the cool things that Niskayuna is doing. Maybe we should do that too. Two key points, like number one, like I don't want this to be a kind of adversarial thing, like go to people who use chemicals and say like, dude, what you're doing is wrong and all that. But I'd rather like it to be a collaborative effort with outreach based on solid science and get people genuinely interested in this. I had two specific things that I came up with after discussing with people with similar interests. Like number one, the low mow stuff that I already mentioned, but I thought like, maybe we can reach out to the likes of GE and other businesses that have these large turfs in front of their properties and say, hey, would you consider allocating part of this to be pollinator-friendly space and insect-friendly space? And then the second idea that I had is to compete for grant money, where we can make it into a project that the whole town can be involved with. Promoting biodiversity, and really, like the idea of saving insects is it's not the kind of stuff that will receive front page news, but the science indicates that it is vitally important and also grossly overlooked. To get just one small example, like pollinating insects are vital for our food supply, and when insect populations decline, bird populations decline because birds feed on insects, and there's been a lot of collaborative studies on that too, comparing the decline in insects with those of birds and then establishing a causal relationship. So getting down to specifics and actionable items, like this is what I propose. Like I'd like to take a month, talk with other people in the committee, talk with other people in the town, and propose a list of low mow areas. Also, I would like to use that time to identify a specific grant mechanism that we can target to do community outreach and get more people educated and really come together as a community on this. Thank you. I'm happy to have discussion on the subject. And
Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I would like, could I make a comment? I did go past the GE facility on River Road today, and it looks like they have planted Lomo fescue. And it's vast, and it is absolutely gorgeous. And it has been growing all spring, and it's still high. And it's just a beautiful, beautiful site. So we might use them as an example of some kind and encourage other businesses to do the same. So I encourage you to go see it. It's really, really pretty.
Yeah, I would concur with you, Kathy. It's a big improvement, I think.
Yes, yes. Much better than lawn turf.
So maybe we could recognize them. We could identify areas of low mow and then recognize and give publicity to GE for doing it.
do we have a contact inside GE? Like, does anyone have a contact with their facilities and maintenance department?
Yeah, we work with them semi-regularly on building permits.
Can you give me a
That's a great
contact that I
idea.
can reach out?
Yeah, I will. I can just send an email to them and copy you and be like, we want to recognize some of the efforts that you did on mowing less and talk to you about it and get information on it. So that maybe, we could give you some kind of honor in the way that a CAC can, and then promote this kind of thing throughout the town.
And I think the pesticide thing is something we have to look into, just educating people about.
Yeah,
So
Laura,
great.
this one's partly on me, but the town board has completely approved our sign plan. We just need to make signs and come up with implementation. They have even given us a small budget for it. So we just need to write out the policy, purchase the signs. Like Linda and I talked to Parcel Post Plus on Knott Street, and he's more than capable of producing the signs for us. He actually just recently produced the Monarch signs for Blatnick Park that I just put out so that they're weatherproof. They last for a really long time, and they're cute, and they're not that expensive. So we just need to design the signs and finalize that policy. The town board is 100% behind us, allowing people to come and pick up signs and kind of recognize and give people a pat on the back for not putting pesticides in their lawn.
Excellent.
Did we talk about what it's going to say, the signs?
Well, we have Kathy. So Kathy showed us the ones that said, what does it say for gnomes? What was the ones that we looked at before? I can probably find them.
That was from a Cornell Cooperative Extension. I think it was in Western New York.
Yeah.
That has devised those gnome signs.
Oh yeah, I have a faint memory.
Something
Okay.
about your lawn is safe for gnomes or something like that. So it was kind of cute.
Yeah, I think that's.
But
a great idea.
Cornell, yeah.
And Ashok, I think the whole insect thing too that you're talking about, I think people need education on why it's good to protect insects. Because, for gardeners, sometimes insects are the foe. eating my roses, all that kind of stuff. So to talk about why it's important to have biodiversity with insects.
But it's actually a good sign when they're eating your plants.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I like flowers.
I take-
It's everything in balance, right? If you can get the insect balance right, I don't even think they'll destroy your flowers. You just have to get the balance right.
Right. There's beneficial insects too.
I know today I sent Laura, I sent you a whole bunch of like, signs that, with ladybugs and, free of pests for kids and, love your lawn and your kids and your dogs. Come hang out on my lawn, a whole bunch of designs, but I didn't know if you wanted to have somebody I didn't know if we were, I think in the beginning we had thought maybe we were gonna try to do something with the high school.
Yeah.
Right with somebody in the art department or something like that, and their environmental thing, their group too. But I think COVID put a real kibosh on that thing. So I think, yeah. So
Was there a student though that? In my memory, was there a certain student who was doing something? No,
I don't think we had a specific student. I think we just knew that they had a recycling club and they had also these other clubs, and we were going, and we knew they had such a great art department that we were just going to try to bring them into the fold so that we could have some more access to some more bodies that would be on board and families that would, educate them along the way. So
I think that's a great idea, and you could still do it remotely, even though we're not meeting in person. I mean, students can still work on that at home.
So, so one of the other questions is Ashok. Is that how you pronounce her name?
Yes, Ashok. The last syllable is like a tree.
Like oak. Okay, good. Okay, so one of the other suggestions that Ashok made, I thought, was about the town and its mowing. Like, is that a possible plan of action?
Yeah, to be and specifically, like I was looking at the Blackney Park Hill, and that is like over mowed in my opinion. Like people rarely sit and have picnics over there. I'm not seeing why that grass can't be a little higher.
Well, there's a guy at the highway department, like last month, I think, just did a presentation that that area the bobolinks will come to. And so he's constantly asking the town not to mow that area. So, I think it's good timing. Like, we can get together with the bobolink people and, being respectful to highway and their. So, sometimes they don't understand where we're coming from, and there's no question about that. But I think that's partly because if they don't mow, there's people in the town who call and they're like, why didn't you mow this? It looks awful. And they'll get the, you didn't weed whack around the tree, and they'll get the, you guys aren't taking good care of their parks. They don't often get the, I'm so glad you didn't mow. And that's kind of like the silent majority, maybe. I think there's probably a lot of people that don't care if they mow the hill. But there are people who care, and they call, and they're like, you're not taking care of the park. So I think that sometimes the highway just doesn't understand, and they get a lot of comments from people that make them feel like they're not doing their job.
Could we use some of that money to make signs that say, it's long on purpose to, for the bobolinks and for our insects?
Right? So they can read it and people can read it and maybe stop some of those phone calls and start some education. I think that's
and I'll add a little bit here. Like we faced a similar issue at Union College, and I've been advocating for low mow at Union College too. And we actually made progress, but the virus stopped all that. But anyway, like we made a decision to put signage on campus when visitors come to campus and say, hey, this is not us not taking care of the campus. Not mowing is a deliberate act to preserve and promote biodiversity. And the signage goes a great deal in explaining to visitors and prospective students that, we're not neglecting our campus, but we are promoting biodiversity.
Yeah, and I think signage like that would go a long way in lowering the complaints.
Yeah. Is there a town we can follow their example? A town with a similar policy that's already developed?
I don't know, but maybe we can follow unions.
Yeah, I think the union's doing it. I think that's a
Well, point of clarification, union's not doing it. Union was about to do it, but COVID happened, and let's just say the union senior administration has bigger fish to fry right now.
Well, we could do it first, and then union could follow us.
Or that would see, like I said, like we should lead the way, like start at one specific point, part, and I'm picking Blacknick Park, and then like experiment it and see what happens, see how many phone calls you get, see how people react. We can go one step further and say, like, use your smartphone, and here is a QR code that will take you to a site where you can put comments. The technology to do that is not all that hard.
So Ashok, do you think that are you allowed to share the signs that Union was gonna put up that said essentially we're not mowing our lawn, we're saving the world?
No, it didn't even get that far, Laura. That's a sad truth
too. Okay, but that's fine. We can do those things.
But I do have a contact, and if you want examples of people who have done this, SUNY New Paltz, they are a certified bee campus. Yeah, it's a thing to get certified as a bee campus. And I have the person who led the efforts at SUNY New Paltz with signage and public outreach and all that is a good personal friend. I'm happy to share her contact and get their signs if you like.
Yeah,
I think that would be a good contact.
I like to look at other people's. I like to look at other people's, but I don't need to.
I'm sure there's other examples if we search. We might be able to find.
I would be happy to, forward to the group, some ideas of what to put on signs for, I think you're looking, so from what I'm hearing, we kind of want two different signs, one that says, low mow, and why, and then, clever and right to the point. And then the other one that is like, pesticide free for like more of like for residents to be able to then have their own. Is that how I feel like that's the two different ways that we're going? And so both of so I don't know, does anybody have, I'm not really sure how to get the high school art department or somebody from those groups involved. I could look on the website and see, but does anybody have any contacts still up there that, of kids that are in those kind of groups?
Ellen, I will email you with Amanda, because Amanda and Carol Carey organized with the art teachers for county. So she might still have that contact.
Yeah, and there was an individual, and I don't know if he's still there, but he did a lot with ecology and projects. In fact, one of my sons did a survey of the Alpus River with him, as a project. So let me see if he's still at Niskayuna High, because that might be an option. He's a science teacher.
Okay, that sounds good. Laura, you kind of broke up a little bit on the names, but if you send it to me, I will follow up.
I just did a quick Google search too, and there are some cute things out there already that says "grow it, don't mow it," and lazy mower alert, and with the little bee, and it's got the QR code, everything.
You know what? It was Safe Home for Gnomes.
Is it Mr. Scott? Sorry.
Are we going to have trouble with neighborhood associations?
That has come up in some of the stuff that I researched. They have their own regulations, and I think that's also outreach. Like, they're going to have to, at some point, shift the world. But we actually don't have a whole lot of neighborhood associations in the town. There's a couple of them, like down in Fieldstone and a couple areas. But if we can reach the majority of our town and then target the homeowners associations.
Okay.
And I don't believe that, we've gone to, trying to, keep our grass pretty high, but not, not knee high, but you know what I mean? But like 4 or 5 inches and pesticide free. And it still looks respectable,
Yeah.
It's green. That's
It's
all.
green and it's respectable. I mean, yeah.
So what I would suggest is, hey, Shook, you said that you wanted maybe a month or so to do some background work on this, look at potential grants and stuff. Am I, yes?
I'm sorry, Dot. My internet just went out for like when you were talking. Like, can you please
Oh.
repeat it?
Yeah, no, that you had basically volunteered like in the next month or so to talk to some people, identify some areas that might need mowing, and you talked about some potential grants.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that would be great if you wanted to take the time and put that together and give us a update. Next meeting, if that would be fine, or if you need more time.
I'm happy to take the month to really dig deep into the grant issue, but considering that July is already here, if we can move on the mowing issue a little bit on
we can
on a test site, I would advocate for that.
Yeah, so what we can do on the mowing is, because they were considering it for the bobolinks, and it's probably the same area, I'm guessing, is potentially bring it up at the highway committee meeting next week and see if we can get some kind of commitment, or see if they've progressed since the bobolink guy was talking to them. And see if we can like marry those two things, because they're coming together, and then see if we can do something, even though it's late in the season, like as soon as possible on the mowing.
Was it the bobolinks specifically at Blatnick Park?
Yeah, it's on that hill.
Okay, that's a good fit.
Yeah. So Ashok, I mean, I don't mind bringing it up at the highway committee meeting, or I can send you the link, and you can also speak at the highway committee meeting asking for the low mow in the same area that the bobolink people are asking. I think that does make a difference. And then and also just say, hey, we endorse this, and we're working on the signs that will maybe take some of the burden off of the highway department, because we're not saying don't mow that, and then you guys get told that you don't take care of your parks. And I mean, that's just a personal thing, because they take a lot of pride in their parks. Right. So, like putting those signs up, I think might make a big difference and make them feel better. They're not being told not to do something and then getting yelled at for it. Like, hopefully everybody is understanding of it.
Do you happen to know the date of that meeting?
Yeah, so it just got moved. It is going to be sorry. Let's go here. It's moved to Highway Parks and Rec Committee, July 8th at 8 a.m. I will definitely be there, and anybody who wants to be there, I can send them the link, and I'll just let the committee know that we want to speak on this.
I would like to attend, please, the July 8th meeting.
No, it's virtual, just like this one.
Virtual. Okay.
I would like a link, please.
So, was it Mr. Scott, the environmental teacher, that you were thinking about, Dart?
I don't quite recollect. I'll have to look.
Because he's also, I think Mr. Scott is also the one who worked on putting the bee environment and in the library. Okay. So that is something that they have been doing at the high school. So there could be some good resources to check in with at the high school.
Here's the gnome sign.
It's so cute.
I know. Look, we need to have a little stamp on ours.
Yeah, can I get the information of this person, this bee person, this high school person?
Well, his name is Mr. Scott, and he teaches environmental science, I guess, at the high school.
Okay.
Yeah, my husband also has been dabbling in orchard bees. And so he's learned a lot of things about orchard bees. Like he's had some, a little bit of success, but some big challenges about trying to find and raise native bees. You're welcome to talk to my husband too.
Can I get his contact? I actually don't know who's speaking now.
Oh, sorry, this is Tina.
Okay, can I get your husband's information too?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, you can just send me an email. Like,
Yeah, I'll email.
Yeah.
Broadcasted across the whole world.
Oh yeah. Oh, forgot. Yeah, I'll email you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Email with a couple of contacts that we're speaking of at this meeting, and then we can move forward. So,
Okay.
so
And-
I'm
and
here.
does anyone know anything about Knowles? Like, I would love to speak to somebody at Knowles and their maintenance people and tell them about GE, for instance.
Yeah, I work there. I would have to do a little work to figure out who you need to talk to, but I don't mind reaching out to them. I can do that.
Thank you, Doc.
Yeah, so I'm hearing we'll work on highway committee next week just to see if we can implement something this year, if possible, on mowing. Ellen will work a little bit on signs, and Ashok, you will dig into the grants, and feel free to copy me on anything grant related, because I know Dart said you have a lot of experience in grants. I do too, so we can just partner together and see what would be realistic for the town. And we had also talked, this goes a little bit beyond, because we have a lot of committees and they're all actually, there's people on a lot of them that interchange and everything, but the Climate Smart Community Committee is looking into a natural resource inventory, and they want to like identify high areas of like high value habitat that the town could start incorporating preservation into. So, I mean, we may be able to tie biodiversity into a study of where it makes the most sense to spend the most dollars on protecting like the town, and where we can do the most good with dollars for increasing biodiversity of insects. I think we can probably tie it all together into, and then we can incorporate it in our comprehensive plan and maybe even in our budget. So listen, that does not happen in a year. Anybody who's been on these committees, they have to understand, does not happen in a year. But those things are steps, and I think that they all move us forward into a better place. And I would really like to help you with that too.
Yeah.
Great.
Good.
Excellent ideas, Laura. Like, can you? So the Climate Smart Committee is different from the Climate Task Force.
Oh,
right?
no, that's the same one. Sorry. Yeah, that's the same one. And they're the one, Kathy's on it. That's why she's nodding. So we identified that as a really high impact action, and we thought that we were going to be able to get it submitted, but it ends up being quite a bit more than we thought it would. But that's not a bad thing, because it does take such a hard look at our town and really would identify areas which we may not even know about that are going to be very high impact in creating habitat corridors and, you know, all the things. Like, we have a lot of support for that. And if, you know, we have people who are planting milkweed in the right of ways and not mowing the circles inside of their, you know, it's cul-de-sacs and stuff. So, I mean, if we just kind of unified it all together as a final, not a final, but as another step, and, you know, get it incorporated into some of our legal documents is where I think we probably want to go, and grants like that. So.
Sounds great.
Good.
Do we have any reports, Laura, at all?
No, I really appreciate all the time you guys put into the review of Windsor last month, and the planning board pretty much took every recommendation that you guys had to heart and incorporated them all in to the recommendation of the town board. So I think you guys did a great job, and I just appreciate that. It's still a project moving forward, and I'll give you updates on it as they come.
Great.
Okay, great. Adjournment.
Do you need a motion?
Move we adjourn I'll second.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Who made that?
Aye.
Aye. Anyone
Aye.
who is opposed? Okay, great. Well, I appreciate everybody coming out, and it's a little earlier than last meeting.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that was record breaking. Look, we're only an hour and a half in. Where's the 3 hours?
night, everybody.
Night, night.
Good night.
night.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy 4th later.